Right now as you watch this, your body is glowing, not with heat, though you do emit infrared radiation, but with something far more mysterious, biophotons. These are ultra-weak emissions of light, thousands of times dimmer than what your eyes can detect, emanating from every living cell in your body. You are, quite literally, a being of light. This isn't metaphor or mysticism. It's measurable science. In the 1920s, Russian biologist Alexander Gurwitch first detected these emissions, calling them mitogenetic rays. For decades, the phenomenon was dismissed or ignored. But modern technology has confirmed it beyond doubt. All living organisms emit photons, particles of light, from their cells. These biophotons appear to be a fundamental feature of life itself. But here's where it gets truly fascinating. These emissions aren't random. They show patterns, rhythms, and correlations that suggest they're carrying information. Could light be a universal language of life, a way that cells communicate not just within an organism, but potentially across organisms, ecosystems, even worlds? We're about to explore the biophotonic field, a revolutionary concept suggesting that life throughout the cosmos might be connected through an invisible web of light. Inside your body right now, trillions of cells are engaged in unimaginably complex coordination. Your immune system identifies and destroys threats. Your neurons fire in precise sequences to generate thoughts. Your DNA constantly repairs itself, fixing errors before they become problems. How do cells coordinate these elaborate dances? Traditional biology emphasizes chemical signals, hormones, neurotransmitters, chemical gradients. But there's growing evidence that light plays a crucial role too. When DNA repairs itself, it emits biophotons. During cell division, characteristic light patterns appear. Even ordinary metabolism produces photons, as reactive oxygen species release energy. German biophysicist Fritz Albert Popp spent decades studying biophotons and proposed they function as a cellular communication system. His research suggested that cells use light to coordinate their activities with extraordinary precision. Think of them as biological fiber optics, sending signals at the speed of light rather than the relatively slow speed of chemical diffusion. The evidence is compelling. Bacterial colonies show synchronized biophotonic emissions as they coordinate growth patterns. Plant roots emit light when damaged, possibly warning nearby roots. Studies have detected biophotonic communication between neurons, suggesting that brain function might involve light signals alongside electrical and chemical ones. Even more remarkably, some researchers report that healthy cells emit more coherent light, like lasers, while diseased or dying cells emit chaotic patterns, suggesting biophotons might be indicators or even regulators of cellular health. This opens extraordinary possibilities. Your body might be orchestrating its countless processes through a symphony of light, with each cell both transmitting and receiving photonic messages, creating a real-time communication network far faster and more precise than chemical signaling alone could achieve. Now let's think bigger. If life on Earth uses light to communicate at the cellular level, what happens when we consider life elsewhere in the cosmos? The biophotonic field concept isn't constrained by planetary boundaries. Light is universal, governed by the same physics everywhere. Consider extremophiles, organisms that thrive in conditions we'd consider impossible. Deep-sea hydrothermal vents host life that exists in complete darkness, yet these organisms still emit biophotons. Tardigrades can survive the vacuum of space, and their cellular processes still generate light emissions. If life can exist in such extreme conditions on Earth, life elsewhere might be even more exotic, but still fundamentally photonic. Imagine life on a planet orbiting a red dwarf star, bathed in infrared light, rather than the visible spectrum we're adapted to. Such organisms might evolve biophotonic systems tuned to different wavelengths. Or consider life in the subsurface oceans of Europa, or Enceladus, where no sunlight penetrates. Would such life still emit and use biophotons for communication and regulation? The physics suggests yes, because biophotons aren't about absorbing environmental light, they're about life generating its own light as an inherent feature of biological processes. This has profound implications for astrobiology. We search for life by looking for chemical signatures, oxygen in atmospheres, methane, complex organic molecules. But what if we could detect life by its biophotonic signature? Different organisms, adapted to different conditions, might emit characteristic light patterns, a universal biosignature independent of biochemistry. Future telescopes might analyze not just the atmospheric chemistry of exoplanets, but their subtle luminous halos, the combined biophotonic emissions of entire biospheres. Here's the most radical implication. What if the biophotonic field represents a kind of universal biological communication network connecting all life across the cosmos? Not through intentional signals, though that's possible too, but through the fundamental physics of how living systems interact with light and quantum fields. Quantum biology has revealed that organisms exploit quantum effects, superposition, coherence, even potentially entanglement, in processes like photosynthesis and bird navigation. If biophotons are quantum phenomena, and quantum systems can exhibit non-local correlations, could there be subtle connections between living systems across vast distances? This challenges our isolated, mechanistic view of life. Instead of separate organisms competing for resources on separate worlds, we might inhabit a universe where life itself forms an interconnected network, a cosmic web where the presence of life anywhere influences the probability of life elsewhere, where information somehow propagates through a universal biophotonic field. This redefines what we mean by life. Perhaps life isn't defined by specific chemistry, carbon, water, DNA, but by its ability to generate, maintain, and respond to organized light patterns. By this definition, life becomes a universal phenomenon of coherent light generation and information processing, potentially taking forms we wouldn't recognize as biological but sharing this fundamental photonic signature. Understanding the biophotonic field could revolutionize medicine. Imagine diagnostic tools that detect disease by analyzing your body's light emissions, identifying cancer, neurological conditions, or infections before conventional symptoms appear. Therapies could use precisely tuned light to stimulate healing at the cellular level, enhancing your body's natural biophotonic communication to accelerate DNA repair and cellular regeneration. For astrobiology, biophotonic detection could transform our search for life. Rather than relying solely on atmospheric chemistry, we might identify living worlds by analyzing their spectral signatures for the characteristic coherence patterns that distinguish biological light emission from non-biological sources. This could detect life radically different from Earth's, as long as it shares this fundamental photonic nature. Perhaps most profoundly, the biophotonic field challenges us to reconsider consciousness itself. If the brain uses light for communication and coordination, and consciousness involves quantum coherence as some theories suggest, might consciousness have a biophotonic signature? Could subjective experience be associated with particular patterns of light emission and absorption? This isn't just discovering a hidden scientific fact. It's a paradigm shift in understanding life and our place in the universe. We've thought of ourselves as isolated beings on an isolated planet, separate from the cosmos. But if we're constantly emitting and absorbing light, entangled with quantum fields that extend throughout space, we're far more connected than we realized. You are a being of light, participating in a cosmic dance of photons that might connect all living things across space and time. The universe isn't dark and dead. It's luminous with life, glowing with biophotonic emissions from countless worlds, forming an invisible web of connection we're only beginning to perceive. The next time you look up at the night sky, remember, you're not just observing distant lights. You're part of the light, a conscious configuration of photons contemplating itself, connected through light to the vast living cosmos. The universe is speaking in whispers of light, and we're finally learning to listen.